Scott, where would you like us to be meeting in the classroom right now?
If you guys are in Language World, just go to your right side window, and there's a list of teleports there. You remember those. And there's 1 to 25, and scroll down a little way with your mouse wheel and click on number 25, Language Building School. And we'll start there.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I'm there, and if every once in a while, I think because I'm taping this actually, so keep that in mind, folks. I will be turning my mic on and off just so that you're not hearing my heavy breathing in the background of this recording. But hopefully everybody's got their 3DU working just fine by now. And there is another upgrade that's coming up that's an even better one, and it's all done and tested and ready to go, but I just don't think that I'll hand that out to you just now. But what will happen is when you go in next time, I would suggest that you go into Muscameg World again, and there'll be a sign there for a new upgrade very, very soon. And when you do that one, it will just give you everything that you could hope for with 3DU. But what we'll ask you to do is you'll need to uninstall the 3DU that you've got before you install that new one. So you'll need to download that file and then uninstall, and then click on that file again. And it will likely be that it's just a link that you'll have to copy and paste onto your desktop, something like that. Let's just take a quick moment to ask God's blessing upon our class this morning. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity for us to meet together like this in community with each other and with you. And Lord, we would just pray that your Holy Spirit would be with us, giving peace to those that are panicking, perhaps, giving inspiration to our brains as there's a lot of new information that is coming at us today. We just ask your blessing on Scott, that you would guide him in his teaching. And we especially ask that you would be with Mrs. Hadley today as she heads off to the doctor with her mother. And there's a pretty serious situation that they're dealing with there, and we would just ask that your guidance would be with the doctors, and that your spirit of peace would be with Mrs. Hadley and her mom. We'd ask these things now in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Well, today is the day that you get your French class 3DU building lots here in Language World. And just real quickly, I just wanted to tell and make sure everybody understands the main reason why you're getting these lots. Each of you will have your own personal lot. It's a yard with an empty house object in the middle, and you'll have wooden fences on both sides. You won't be able to change any of those. You can duplicate, you can use the side wooden fences to duplicate from later, but you won't be able to move your house. That's for a good reason. I actually made the houses under my account so you cannot move them or delete them or change them, because when you start putting things in that big one object house, you are invariably going to mistakenly right click on the house, and you might turn it or rotate it or move it out of whack, and you can't get it back, and all your objects inside the house now are inside the walls or under the floor or ceiling or something that's all messed up. So I put the houses on your lots for you and put them under my account. Can't change them, and that's really mostly for your sake, because it's very frustrating if you had it under your own account. So just, the house is there. Don't try to put another house on your lot. There's not enough room to put another house. These are lots where we're trying to make it fit this modern day world. And this is a suburb that we're actually adding on to the world. We've been adding to this world over time. Now, you get to have your lot, and think of your lot in here as your French class 3D workbook, because you're going to be doing lessons that Madam Hadley is going to be giving you in the future. So your first assignment, once you got your lot claimed, is just take your time and start putting um, trees in your yard. You can put the doors on. You can start putting furniture and things in your house, but keep it light. We don't want anybody using giant objects like big military vehicles or castle pieces or giant dragons. We don't want anything that's out of the ordinary. Only something you would see in a normal suburb like what we've got here. So now the reason why I'm saying that is if anybody wants to build something, your own, whatever you want to build, any kind of fancy thing you want to build, if you don't already have one, you can have a lot in Logos World where everybody can have their own personal lot and build anything they want. So I'm just telling you that this lot here in Language World, it is your lot, but keep in mind you got to keep it neat and tidy because you're going to be assigned to do things with it in the next few, well, after the holidays by Madam Hadley. So anyway, I got that out of the way. I'll just say right now, if we have any students here in class who already know how to build and they don't need to stand around and do the beginning building lesson that I'm going to give to those who have never built before. If you already know how to build, just start following that street that you see that goes off to the east from the school. Go out the door you came in and just keep following that street and look for a lot with a vacant house. And as soon as you find one that doesn't have a sign on or anything else on it, you can claim it by just copying one of the wooden fences on the side. Just duplicate one of those, move it over into the yard of your lot, change it to a sign 1, and then put your name on it. Now, everybody else who's never built before and would like to have a quick lesson, because it's quick, not because I want to make it quick, it's just quick because it's pretty simple, really. But if anybody wants to have a quick lesson now, just if you haven't already, in 3DU, just in the right side web window, click teleport number 25 and show up at the language building school. I'm going to break for about 60 seconds here and just let everybody get sorted out.
I'm just going to break in, if I may, while you're doing that, just to remind everyone that this is Language World. This isn't your world. And so if there are things that are inappropriate that are in your lot, Mrs. Hadley has the right to delete whatever she chooses to do for whatever reason. So do understand that you do have a lot in Logos, as Mr. Miller was saying, and that's for your personal stuff. Here is, we hope it'll be fairly personal, but it needs to be consistent with the French. So please don't put anything inappropriate there. Please don't put anything in anyone else's lot. There will also, of course, need to be some action taken if students are starting to build in somebody else's lot. So please don't do that. And Keenan, whoever is driving around in the car, if you could get out of the car, please. It's very cool, but we need you here in your avatar, participating with everyone else. And I'm sure that Madame Hadley will, over time, be a lot more specific about what she's wanting in your lot. There's going to be an economy that will be open to you, so there will be rewards for work well done, and with those rewards you're going to be able to purchase certain items and that sort of thing. So that's something to look forward to as well. Okay, Scott.
Okay, we're going to quickly teach everybody how to build. So I'm going to go inside, but you can also stay out here, and I've got practice areas in the grass where I just ran here if you want to stand here, and then behind the building over to the other side there's another place you can stand and look at these signs where I'm standing that explain how to do it. Basically what I'm going to do is just tell you what's on these pictures anyway. So you can spread out, and some of them you can go in here. then some of you can, be inside the building, so everybody's kind of spread out a little bit and we're not all crowded together. So let's go ahead and get started. It's going to be a little confusing at first, but just hang in there with me. Here we go. To start building in an area where you have building rights, like in the suburb area here, just move your mouse cursor over one of those water coolers. This is just an example. You can do this with any object. Right-click on that water cooler, and then you'll see little yellow lines that go around it, and that's just telling you you've got that object selected. And then to duplicate that, you want to make a duplicate of that object, so it's your own object. That's how you start. So to make a duplicate of the object you've right-clicked, you can do one of two things. You can duplicate two different ways. You can either press the Insert key on your keyboard to make a duplicate, or if you want to, when you have that pop-up box that says Object Properties, click the third button from the left, right next to the two red ones, and it says Duplicate. And if you click that button, that will also make a duplicate. And then, as you'll see on that pop-up box, there's all those blue arrows with yellow cubes, and you put your mouse over them and they say move back, move forward, move left, move right. You can use those keys to move your duplicate, but only your duplicate. You cannot move anybody else's object that's here. So I'm going to just give you a break first for about 30 seconds and let you sort that out. Basically what you're doing is right-clicking on one of those water cooler objects and then either pressing the Insert key on your keyboard, or if you want to stick with using the pop-up box because everything else is there, use the Duplicate key, third from the left on that top row. Then use the arrow keys to the right of those to move it forward and back, left and right, up. Okay? So, has everybody been able to make a duplicate of that water cooler object? I might as well start calling it by its object, its model name. It's BS-WCool1. That is the model name of that object. We've got thousands and thousands of objects you can use, and I'll show you where you can find them, but let's finish this lesson. So now that you've got your water cooler object and you've made it, make sure you know which one's yours now, because there's a lot of them and you can only move yours. What we're going to do now is we're going to change it into a different object. This is the core, the actual crux of building is duplicating an object on your lot and then either using that object or changing it to another and then using it. So what you want to do is to change it into another object, and let's all use this same object to change it to, so because you're going to want to do the same thing on your lot the first thing. Right click on your water cooler object, and then you see that pop-up box at the top, and it says in the box for model, it says BS-WCool1. That's the name of the water cooler. We want to change that to a different one. We're going to change it to a sign. And what you want to do is on your object, delete out WS-WCool1. Take that out. Just swipe it and delete it. Then type in this name, sign 1. I just typed it in the chat too. Just change it to sign 1, S-I-G-N 1, no space. Guess what? You've learned pretty much everything about building. The rest of the time is only going to be practice. Learning how to use all the arrows to move them right and left, up and down. And then the other arrows to the right of those 6, those will rotate the object around the X, the Y, and the Z lines that you see when you right-click your object. You see the red X the green Y, and the blue Z, those other 6 buttons will rotate them around that way. We'll tell you where to find other objects where you can right on them and highlight their name and copy them and then put them on your lot. That's what we're going to do here next. Okay, yeah, you got to make sure there's no space between sign and one. Just all one word, sign one.
Scott, would it be too early to talk about the two icons at the very extreme right at the top of the object properties box, the reset rotation and snap to grid? Because I think those are two really important buttons that they need to play with.
Okay, yeah, sure. When you, if for some reason you've twisted your object and rotated it all out of whack and you want to set it all out, there are those 2 buttons on the extreme right of that row on the pop-up box. One is called Reset Rotation, and one is called Snap to Grid. Reset Rotation will just straighten it out so it points perfectly straight like it normally does. And Snap to Grid will put it on a grid, the closest grid to you. If you cannot reselect your object, make sure that you are right-clicking your object. You might be clicking somebody else's. So, who has not been able to duplicate one of those water coolers and then move it around and then change it into a sign? Who has not been able to do that yet?
Okay, Scott, can I jump in for just a second here because I see someone, and this perfectly natural for someone to do this over here, what they've done with these fence posts, where they've multiplied it many times. We just want to let you know that that's kind of a spamming, if you will, a builder's way of spamming. And when you do that, it fills up the particular square that that's in, and it may make it impossible for others to build and that sort of thing. So please make sure that you don't do that. Using Mac, if they don't have a mouse and they want to right click, my understanding is that you leave your index finger down on the mouse pad and then you tap with your finger to the right of that, and that will act as a right click if you don't have a mouse.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Holden. That's a good note. Now, those of you who have been able to duplicate an object and move it around and change it to a sign 1, start going down the street on that side of the school and just take off and find a lot that has an empty house with no signs, nothing in the yard that's not been claimed, and go to one of the wooden fences on either side of your lot, because every lot has wooden fences on a side. Go to one of those sides and right-click one of those fence objects and duplicate it. Move it over into your yard with the move left or right keys or buttons. Then change it to a sign 1, just like in the lesson, and that way you've got your lot claimed. Make sure you don't put a sign in a lot that has other things in the already. There might only be just another sign, but don't put, just keep following that street. And if the street's full all the way to the end, just turn left and just keep following it then the other way until you find empty lots. There's plenty of empty lots. There's 50 more empty lots than all of the classes combined, so nobody can say that there aren't any available. There's plenty.
Can I ask that everyone fills in those lots too? Don't just skip over 10 empty lots.
Once you've found a lot, make sure you do a teleport save. Keep going. It may seem like as far as you go, there's just filled lots, but just keep going. You will find them. You will find them. There are plenty of vacant lots. You just have to travel for a while. If you want to make the sign show your name, and that's probably what you're going to want to do anyway, after you put your sign 1 on your lot, just right-click on it and then type your account name in the description box up near the top, right underneath the model box, just like you do with your whiteboard for French class. Type in your account name in that description box. And then the box below that that says action, type in create sign. And that would be create, I'm going to type it in the chat, create with a space and then sign. And then that will make the text in your sign show with your name. But you have to make sure you type your account name in the description box of the sign. Wait just about another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to show you guys where we find all of our objects. And then we're just going to let you go. You can start decorating your lots. Make sure that you don't use big, giant, fancy, fantasy kind of things that would never see in a normal suburb when we go.
Okay, Scott, I see, for instance, Christian's lot. And in Christian's lot, and this came up earlier, somebody was asking about how to create snow and all the rest of it. He's done a really wonderful job of doing a Christmas display. And so there are some students who are, of course, taking the art classes. And in the IMT art classes, they're learning how to do, like, turn the lights on and off and have music as you go through the doors and all those kinds of things. Of course, the French class isn't set up to be teaching, the sophisticated nuances of building in this world. And yeah, and if you want to join me and see what I'm talking about, with Christian's lot. It's really nice, but the expectations aren't for your French class that you're going to be able to build like this. As time goes on, you probably will pick up these skills, and you can certainly ask other students, but it's not going to be your teacher's responsibility to teach you how to become a master builder. If that's something that you want to learn, that's something that you can learn from Mr. Miller and Mr. Titley in the art classes, just so you know.
It's a good point. This is not a building contest, guys. So don't worry if you see things that are just crazy decorated, with all kinds of stuff and looking really cool. This is not what we're trying to do here. He does that, Christian does that because he's just been building for a while and he knows how. In fact, he might end up taking some stuff out because he's got so much there, because later on you're going to have to be adding certain things that your teacher tells you to put in and to do things with them. So don't really over decorate your lot is what we're trying to say. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Okay, guys, we're down to 19 minutes, so I'm going to show you where to find objects in our object yard. Okay, everybody, look on your right side web window, scroll down with your mouse wheel or the scroll bar, and go down where it says Object Yard. It's a blue link, and it says Object Yard. Click on that, and that will take you to our object yard where all of our objects are. I'm going there now, so if you're still in language, I'm not going to see the chat text. Okay?
Okay, I'm headed off to the object yard, but Scott, probably a great time to remind students to reduce their visibility when they get to the object yard, or it might just overwhelm your computer as you're walking through there. And I'm headed there now.
Yeah, make sure that you go up to visibility, change it to 30 meters when you land in the object yard. Okay, so If you're not there yet, join me. I'm at the object yard. And you can always find a teleport link to the object yard in any of our HCOAST worlds in the side web window. Just look for object yard, and you click it, and you can go there. You can also do a teleport remember save too if you want to save a place here. So now that you are here, you'll see this one wall with all these big red signs, and you can fly in this world. So kind of fly up a little bit if you want to, or you can just look up with your page up key. And when you want to find objects, just click on one of these red signs. For instance, the one that says lamps, kind of in the middle. If you click that, that will take you to an area where we've got all kinds of lamp objects. And just like you learned just today, all you have to do if you want that object is to right click on it in here and then highlight the model name, whatever it is, and right click that and copy it, and you've got the right model name then, and then you can paste that into a new duplicate on your lot. I know a lot of people have been asking, well, how do I get an object from the object yard to my lot? Well, when you see an object here in the object yard, you right click on it and then copy its model name of that object. Then you've got it in your clipboard on your computer, and then when you go back to your lot, you make a duplicate of something on your lot and then paste the new model name in it.
Just a little tip for you. If you want to save yourself some time, you might find that there's 5 lamps that you like. So it might be a good idea to bring up a Word document that you save your objects on and copy and paste those object names, the model names that is, copy and paste those to your Word document and make sure that you document what it is. And so you can put as many as 20 or 30 or 50 different model names there. Okay, some of the model names though are fairly obtuse as far as their relationship, the name to the object. So you might want to just or even take a screenshot, of the object that you're highlighting and put that in your Word document as well. And then you've got a record. That means you don't have to come back and forth to Earwax World. And that's the other thing, is you can get to here through the web page off to the right. But another way of getting here is this is all taking place in Earwax World. And don't click on the Earwax World just now, but I think that later on, as you're exploring here, that's a good interesting place to enter into Earwax. Okay, so I think it would be a good idea, Scott, if everybody grabbed one object at least from Earwax World and headed back to their lot, which of course you should have saved as a teleport now, so you go directly back to your house, and you can, whatever object is available to you, it might be your sign, for instance, that you duplicate and rename your duplicate as your lamp or your postal box or your pet dog or whatever it might be, and move that into your house. And once you're able to do that,
Okay.
there's no end to what you can do. Of course, the building school where you first came in and met with Scott, it's filled with information inside on just about anything that you could possibly want to know. So again, I'm going to encourage you not to keep pestering Scott, but if you have a question about building, go into the building center and see if you can figure it out yourself first. And you may end up learning a lot more that way.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Okay, well, anyway, I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that Madam Hadley wants me to tell you that your homework now, until we start classes after the break, I think you might have another class, you still have another class next week. So your homework for this week is simply to make sure that you have claimed a lot in Language World where there's only an empty house on your lot, and that's it, just an empty house. Put a sign 1 in your yard, and then you can start adding your objects, building your lot. Make sure it's a realistic lot. We don't want giant monsters and dragons and castles. Don't We just want a regular suburb lot. So that's your homework for this week, is to spend some time and just find things in the object yard to put in there. You can also, if you see any objects in Language World inside the world in the town area, maybe you like a particular tree that's used, or a bush, or a table inside of a building, you can right click that and copy the name and use that. Any of the objects you see in our worlds, you should be able to right click and copy the model names and use them. You don't have to go to the object yard to find things, anything you see. So one last thing that I keep forgetting to tell all the other classes, so I'm telling you right now, when you move an object, you can move it less than just one of those clicks, because sometimes you need to move it just tiny amounts so you can put it on top of a table or get it lined up just right on the floor. If you right-click your object and then hold down your Shift key and then click the arrows to move it, it will only move it just a little bit, just 5 centimeters. So you can adjust where things are. If they're a little bit off and you can't get them to line up, you can do it that way. Okay, that finishes the official building class for today for your French class. You know what to do for the next week. Have fun, guys.
You folks have got plenty of things that you can do now, which is great. Oh gosh. But before you leave, though, know that the objects that you put in your yard, you will need to know the French for. So you can start working on that now, because as time goes on, the expectation will be that you know the French word for the objects in your lot, and if you don't, you might just lose them. The other thing is this, is that as you're trying to do increasingly sophisticated things, and you see Mr. Miller or myself in World, my expectation will be that if you are asking me for help, I will be asking you first of all, who are the others in World that you have asked? Because what we really want is, we want you folks being instructors for each other. So if you learn something, how to do something, we expect that others will be able to learn that from you. And chances are you learned it from someone else. So it's the old pay it forward thing. And I will be expecting that you will have contacted at least 3 others to ask them for that information before you contact me. Okay? So, yeah, with that, the class is over. And enjoy, folks. This will be a great place for you to hang out over Christmas. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you all build. A biento. Yeah, do remember that your lot is built on some cells, they're called, and those cells can fill up with objects too. So if you put dozens and dozens and dozens of objects in to a certain area, it may be that it fills it up. And so for that reason, we build horizontally, not vertically. So we don't expect to see any skyscrapers or anything like that.